Okay. Okay. We have Mikvaos starting at Dalet Aleph. If one placed vessels under a pipe, whether large vessels or small vessels, even dungware, stoneware, or mudware, they disqualify a mikvah. Whether one placed them or one forgot them, according to the words of Beit Shammai. Beis Hillel declares a tahor when he forgot them. Red Meir says that they were counted and Beit Shammai outnumbered Beit Hillel. However, they agree that if he forgot them in a courtyard, it's tahor, and Rabbi Yossi says the dispute still stands in its place. If one places a board under a pipe, if it has a rim, it disqualifies a mikvah. If it does not, it does not disqualify a mikvah. If, however, it stood upright to rinse it off, then in either case it does not qualify a mikvah. If one hollowed out a cavity in a pipe to receive gravel, in a case that is of wood, it disqualifies a mikvah, wherever the size of the cavity. But in a case that it is earthenware, it disqualifies a mikvah when the size of the cavity is 1 revi'ah. Rabbi Yossi says also in a case that it is earthenware, it disqualifies a mikvah, whatever the size of a cavity. And I spoke of a revi'ah only concerning broken vessels of earthenware. If the gravel in it was loose, it disqualifies a mikvah. And if earth fell in it and it was pressed down, the mikvah is still fit. A pipe which is narrow at both ends and wide in the middle does not qualify a mikvah because it was not made to receive.
Okay. Mishna Daled. Okay, so what you've got is there was let's say somebody was using his hose pipe to wash down the yard, so you've got a bunch of mayim shuvim in the yard, and then comes the rain. And the rain comes and picks up the water level. So now all this water runs off into the beginnings of a new mikveh. Okay, so you've got a mixture of rainwater and drawn water, which now is going into the first part of the mikveh, which is the vulnerable time. Or wherever it is, whether it's in the chatzer or if it's in a little pit or a ditch or in a or on the stairs going down to the cave. Imrov min hakasher kasher. Now at this point, we're going to go by majority rule. That because the water is mixing before it goes into the mikveh. So once we're talking about the mixing before it hits the actual mikveh, then we're going to go by majority rule. And if the majority is rainwater, imrov min hakasher kasher, imrov min pasel pasel, mechza pasel. So if it's 50-50, then that's not good enough. I'm not sure how you would know exactly is 50-50, but what you would be able to do is say, I don't know. And when it's called safek mechzal dami, if it's for safek, then it's called 50-50. So that's what we're talking about over here. It's not like you actually sat there with like measuring things and measured the rain and measured you don't know. And that's the point, is that you don't know. Okay. So that would be possible. But this is only so when they mixed before they hit the mikveh. Okay. Hayu mekalchin besoch hamayim. So im hayu mekalchin besoch hamayim kol masher lo yadu lemikveh ad sheyarad ela hayu mayim shorim mayim kashem. Okay, now what happens if you have two different streams? One stream of puzzle water and one stream of kosher water, all hitting the mikveh at the same time. So they're mixing in the mikveh, right? If you know that 40 sa'ah of kosher water hit the mikveh before the shlosha lugim of mayim shuvim farin, that's kosher, im lav pasol. In other words, the mix. So we have this rule of majority when the waters mix outside of the mikveh, but you don't have that majority rule when it's inside the mikveh. If you have 39 se'ah of kosher rainwater and then 4 lugim of mayim she'ubim fall in, it's way outnumbered. It's way in the minority, but nonetheless, goodbye mikveh. That's how it works. If it's inside the mikveh, when it happens, that's where we draw the line. Okay, Mishnah Hey, Hashokes Shebasela. We've seen this Mishnah before, by the way, in Para, I believe. Okay. It's basically identical to the Mishnah in Para. Hashokes Shebasela. If you've got a trough or in the rock, it's some sort of it's a hollow in the rock. So let's say somebody carved out of the rock, but it's still
A
part of it.
receptacle, some kind of receptacle.
Some kind of receptacle in the bedrock. So what we're going to say is the basic rule of this is it's not a kli. Okay, and all the rules of not a kli are going to apply to this, as we're going to see now. Ein memalin mimena, you cannot fill it for meichatas, for the paraduma. Ein mekachin ba, you cannot sprinkle ashes into it if you did fill it. Ein mazin mimena, you cannot sprinkle from it if you made proper meichatas for the paraduma. You can't pour it into there and then use that as your container to sprinkle from. Now it also has the kula that if it contains things that you want to keep tahor, all you need to do is cover it loosely. You don't need to put a proper seal on top of it, and it will protect from tuma. Ein poselis is a mikveh, and furthermore, if water flows into it and then flows out into a mikveh, it doesn't cause a psul because again, it's not a kli, so it's not called maim shovin. Now, conversely, haisa kli v'chibra basid. Now, if it was a kli, even if it's a stoneware kli, and he put it onto the rock and sealed it there, put plaster all around it, and now, to all intents and purposes, it's part of the rock. Nonetheless, it is considered a kli. It's got it. Okay, the mamalin basa. All of these halachas get reversed. You can fill it for meichatas. Umakajinba, you can sprinkle ashes into it for meichatas. Mazin mimena, the kohen can use that as his kli for sprinkling from. Tzricha tamid pasil, and if you want to protect from tuma, it has to have a proper seal around it because again it's a kli. Uposeles is a mikveh, and if naturally flowing water goes into it and then out and into the mikveh, it will pass the mikveh. Okay, so that is all the basic if and only if it's a switch between this and that if it's a kli or if it's not considered a kli, and all these halachas follow suit.
Okay.
Now what happens if you punctured it at the bottom or minatzad or in the middle of its wall? And it cannot hold any water, it's kosher. Then now it's no longer considered a kli, and all those halachas of eno kli now apply again to it. The kama year benekev, how big does that hole have to be to remove it from the status of being a kli? Kishvoferes hanod, the same the size of the opening of a water flask. Oh, okay, of a water skin. Amar Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. It says Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, there was a Maaseh Shahaya, Maaseh B'Shokes Yehu. Shehaisa b'Yerushalayim. There's a place called Yehu in Jerusalem. V'haisa nekuva kishvaferes hanod, and it had a hole in it, the size, as we said, of the water skin. But v'hayu kol hataros sheb'Yerushalayim nasos al gaba, and they did all these taros by it, which means basically that they relied on the fact that it wasn't considered a kli. Okay, oh wait, shahayu matbilim ba kelim. I'm just trying to get the picture over here that they would toivel kalim in it, which means I guess that it was that it was maim chaim flowing through it. Because if it's a mikveh, I'm not sure what they meant. That can you just tell me what Article says about the how you call taros?
On the basis of Yehu's trial, ritually poor foods in Yerushalayim were prepared with utensils that were cleansed from the tumah by immersion in Yehu's trial. Yehuda ben Beseira's statement about the trough involved the legal principle of hashkaka. in no way it is in no way related to the previous lesson of the Mishnah concerning vessels losing their status due to their perforation.
Ah,
The
okay.
Tana juxtapositions the two lessons only on account of a detail which is common to both, namely the size of the tube of a water skin.
The whole. Mm-hmm.
Right. The
Okay,
size of the
so it's because of Hashaka. So it was connected to another mikveh, in other words, through that hole of Shafaris Hanod, and people would do all their tevila in there because it was connected to another mikveh. Okay, okay, cool. So that
yeah,
that's a very helpful comment, because I was assuming that it was actually coming to support the previous statement. So really, it's just sort of an agav thing, that since we're talking about the whole of the Shoferes Hanod, so Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira comes and talks about the same Shoferes Hanod, but in the context of Hashaka, about about the hole connecting it to another mikveh.
It says the size that size is the minimum required for a hole in a vessel, and it always required the minimum required for the opening between two bodies of water to affect hashkacha.
Okay, good. Okay, B'shalchu Beis Shammai u'Pesachua, and Beis Shammai weren't happy about it. They felt that the hole needed to be bigger, so they sent somebody with some tools, and he made the hole bigger. Shebeis
Right.
Shammai omrim ad sheyipaches ruba. Is that they hold that it has to be that the majority of the wall has to be removed in order to connect the two bodies. Okay, and of course halacha is like Beis Hillel. Mayan sheheviro al gabe hashokes pasul. So now you've got a stream. Mayan is mayim chayim, your highest level of tahara, as we saw in Mikvaos, and it went over a trough. So now this water that went into so it's basically flowed down and flowed into a trough, and then it's spilled over. Okay, what is pasul? What is pasul? Kati explains that's the water that's in the shokes is pasul. Is pasul for tevila, because first of all it's too small. It's too small itself to be a mikveh, and it's not set in the ground. It's in a kli basically that's above the ground, so you can't tovel anything in it. And it's not considered mayim chayim because it's separate from the stream itself. And also what comes out of the shokes is all pasul for tevila, because it's gone into the shokes. It's become mayim shovim. Okay, so even though it's connected to the stream, the stream does not help there, because the water that's in the shokes is drawn into a kli, and the water that comes out of it is not connected to the mayan, is not connected directly to the mayan, but it's only it's the connection is through the mayim she'urim that's in the kli. Okay. Heviro al gabe safa kol shehu. Now, what happens if the shokes is actually submerged in the stream? Kasher chutzalo shemayan matar b'kol shehu. Says that even though the kli itself that's resting underneath the water of the mayan, even though that is it's still a kli inside it. Okay, but outside of the shokes is all kosher. Shemayan matayr b'kol shehu. Even if it's a lot of water, you presume, that is coming out of the shokes, then the mayan is matayr all of that water that even on the side that's coming out. Okay, heviro al gabe brecha. Okay, vehifsiko harehu kamikva. So now the mayan was going over the edge of a pool, a big pool, which is obviously minimum 40 sa'ah. And so it filled up that pool and flowed on. And then he changed the direction of the flow of the stream, so that now all you've got left is just a pool. That's just a mikveh. If he redirected the stream to go back over the pool, pasul l'zavim It's still even so you cannot use it for Zavim and Zavos in that pool because that pool became Maim She'uvin.
Right.
Okay, so anyone who needs Maim Chayim cannot use that pool. Or the Kadesh Mehen Meichatas, you also can't take the water out of there for the paraduma. Ad sheyeda sheyatzu harishonim, until you can do that calculation that the original water that was in that mikveh has now flowed out, and it's just spring water in there now. And again, you might have you either do differential equations or you assume that that the water that flows out the other side is 50-50 all the time.
Okay. All
Okay,
right.
let's go back to
Okay. Hey, base. If one drew from
base.
olive, oh, I put it in the one place.
Mikvaos. Yeah.
Olive base. I mean, sorry. If one drew from it with a tummy vessel and then a Tama person drank from it, he becomes Tame. If one drew from it with a tummy vessel and then he drew from it with a Tahor vessel, it becomes Tame. If one drew from it with a tummy vessel and then a loaf of truma fell into it, then if he rinsed it, it becomes Tame, and if he did not rinse it, it becomes Tahor. The tummy water fell into it and then a Tahor person drank from it, it becomes Tame. If tummy water fell into it and one drew from it to a Tahor vessel, it becomes Tame. If tummy water fell into it and then a loaf of truma fell into it, if he rinsed it, it becomes Tame, and if he did not rinse it, it remains Tahor. Reb Shimon says whether he rinsed it or he did not, it becomes Tame. If a corpse fell into it or a Tame person walked through it and then a Tahor person drank from it, it remains Tahor. Water in water holes, water in cisterns, water in dishes, water in caves, water seeps in that has ceased seeping, and mikvos that do not contain 40 saw are all alive. During the rainy season, when they are all deemed tahor, when the rain cease, they're near to a town or the roads are deemed tameh, but those are that are distant deemed tameh and tahor until such a time that there are many walkers.
Okay.
Tahara.
Toros Alavadid.
Okay, Vav.
Salad.
I'm looking at the wrong page. Okay. And with animals, the hide, the gravy, the spices, the elal, the bones, the giddim, the horns, the hooves, the combine to convey the tomb of foods, but not the tomb of nevela. Similarly, if one slaughters a non-kosher animal for a non-Jew and it's convulsing, it conveys the tumah of foods, but not the tumah of nevela until it dies or he chops off its head. The Torah provided more things that convey the tumah of foods than that convey the tumah of nevela. Foods that contract the tumor from an tumor and food that contract the tumor from a derivative tumor combine with one another to convey tumor according to the level of the lesser of the two. How so? The volume of a half of a neg of rishon food and the volume of half a neg of sheni food that one mix together, it is a sheni. The volume of half a neg of sheni food and the volume of half a neg of shlishi food that one mix together is a shlishi. The volume of a neg of rishon food and the volume of a neg of sheni food that one mix together is a rishon. And if he separated them, this is a sheni and this is a sheni. If one fell by itself, that one fell by itself onto a loaf of truma, they disqualify it, and if both fell together, there's a sheni. The volume of an egg of sheni food and the volume of an egg of shlishi food that one mixed together is a sheni. If you split them, this one is a shlishi and that one is a shlishi. If it fell by itself and one fell by itself onto a loaf of truma, they do not disqualify it, they both fell together, they make a shlishi. The volume of an egg, a rishon food, and the volume of an egg of shlishi food that one mixed together is a rishon. And if you split them, this one is a sheni, and that one is a sheni. Because even the shlishi that touched the rishon became a sheni. The volume of 2 eggs of rishon food and the volume of 2 eggs of sheni food that one mixed together is a rishon. And if you split them in two, this one is a rishon, and that one is rishon into 3 or 4, they are sheni. The volume of 2 eggs that have sheni food and the volume of 2 eggs of shlishi food that one mixed together is a sheni. And if you split them in two, this one is a sheni and that one is a sheni. In 3 or 4, they are shlishi. Okay. Olios. Okay. Hey. If a person is lying on the threshold while he cause bearers pass over him, Beit Shammai says he does not spread tumor, whereas Beit Hillel says he does spread tumor. If the tumor is inside the house while Tahor people pass over him, Beit Shammai declare him Tahor, whereas Beit Hillel declares him Tameh. A dog ate coarse flesh and then died, and it's presently lying across the threshold of a house. Reb Meir says it is a neck. If its neck is a handbreadth wide, tumor spreads into the house, and if not, tumor does not spread into the house. Rabbi Yoshi says we check the tumor. If it is inside the doorstep, the house becomes tummy. If it is outside the doorstep, the house remains tahor. Rabbi Elliot says if its mouth is inside the house, remains tahor. If its mouth is outside, the house becomes tummy because the tumor exits through its rear. Reb Yehuda ben Sarah says in any cases these houses become tamei. How long can the corpse flesh remain inside and has still conveyed tumah? 24-hour periods. And regarding birds and fish, long enough to be thrown into a fire and become burnt, they are the words of Reb Shimon. Reb Yehuda says and Sarah says regarding birds and fish, 24 hours. A cistern inside a house
That's it.
contains
We're
a
done.
that was it. Okay,
Yeah, that's it.
go along here and cooling Gimel Aleph. These are accounted treifa in animals, an animal whose esophagus is punctured, whose treifa is severed, the membrane of a brain was punctured, the heart was punctured into a cavity, if the spine was broken and its course severed, if his liver was removed and nothing remains of it, if the lung was punctured, or if it was deficient. The Shimon says not unless he penetrates to the bronchi. The absalmen was punctured, the gallbladder was punctured, the intestines were punctured. If the inner puncture was punctured, or the greater part of the outer one was torn, Rabbi Yehuda says in a large animal, a handbreadth, and a small animal, the greater part. If the animal or the reticulum was punctured at the outside, it fell from the roof. If most of its ribs were broken and one was clawed by a wolf, Rabbi Yehuda says that one that was clawed by a wolf is treifa in the case of small animals, but only clawed by a lion in the case of large animals. One that was clawed by a nates in the case of a small fowl, or one that was clawed by a gas in the case of a large fowl. This is the rule. If an animal with a similar defect cannot live, it's treifa. And the following are kosher animals. If the trachea was punctured or slit, how much must be missing? Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says up to the size of an Italian isser. The skull was cracked, but the membrane of the brain was not punctured. The heart was punctured, but not into its cavity. The spinal cord was broken, but the cord was not severed. The liver was removed, but an olive-sized piece remains. The osum and the rectum were punctured into another. If the spleen was removed and the kidney was removed, the lower jaw was removed, the uterus was removed, and the lung was shriveled through non-human agency. Those whose skin is flayed, Reb Meir declares it fit, and the contagions declare it unfit. And these are the accounted treifa in fowl. A fowl whose esophagus is punctured or whose trachea is severed, the weasel struck on its head in a place that rendered it treifa. The gizzard who's punctured, the intestines were punctured, and it fell into a fire, and its internal organs were scorched. If they turn green, they are unfit, and if they are red, they turn fit. If one trod on or knocked against a wall, if an animal crushed it and it flutters, it remains alive for 24 hours, and he slaughtered it, it's fit.
Okay.
If the following, that's it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And nazir. Okay. And bait. For contamination from the following sources of tumor, the nazim are shaved for a corpse. An olive bolt of a corpse, or an olive bolt of netzel, or later the clay corpse of the spinal column, or the skull of a limb severed from a corpse, or the limb severed from a living body that has on it sufficient flesh. Or half of them are bones or half a log, whether the contamination is transmitted by contact carrying or a roof or a tumor from the bone of the size of a barley grain, whether the contamination is transmitted by contact or carrying. These are another shaves. Sprinkles on the third and seventh day forfeit the previous days and do not resume counting until he becomes tar or brings in sacrifices. But for tumor transmitted by branchy canopus or intrusions or a field in which a grave has been plowed over, or on the land of the nations, or the coffin cover of the coffin, of a cord or log of blood, or a tent, or a cord or log of bones, of utensils, the touch of a corpse, of the days of Mitzorah's counting, or the days of confirmed to Cyrus. These the Nazir does not shave, but is sprinkled on the third and seventh days, and is not forfeit the preceding days, and is begin to count right away, and has no sacrifice. In truth, they said the days of Azava, and the days of confinement of the Mitzorah, they are counted for him. Reb Elias said in the name of Reb Yeshua, any tumor from a corpse of which a Nazir shaves, one is liable because it is for the entering the temple. And any tumor from a corpse of which a Nazir does not shave, one is not liable for not entering the table. Reb Meir said this should not be more lenient than tumor contracted from a creeping thing. Or Kiva said, I can reason before Reb Ezra. If for a bone the size of a barley grain, which does not contaminate a person by way of a roof, the Nazir shaves for touching or carrying it. For a quarter log of blood which contaminates a person, even the way of a roof, it is not clear if a Nazir should shave for touching or is carrying. He said to me, what is this, Akiva? We cannot reason here by a Kavahoma. When I came and related these things to Rabbi Yeshua, he said to me, you have spoken well, but so they have said of an oral in the oral law. The
Right.
tuna ceremony.
That's it. First, that's done, and I'm going to go now, so I'll leave you
That was the
to
last one? I
room.
did three already? I did three on
Yeah,
those here?
yeah, you did.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I'm
So,
going to do
so you're going to do
refer.
room by
Refer.
yourself.
Okay. Have a
Okay.
good day, Dave. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Okay.